What's up, guys? This is Lucid and today we are going to do the second episode of our new-ish series where we cover cryptids, urban legends, and things of the like, stuff like that. And today we are going to do Liorona, which you've probably heard of before. It's a legend that comes from Mexico, but pretty much everyone who knows urban legends could tell you about it. But we are going to talk about it today. So basically, La Llorona is in short terms, it's a woman who is looking for her dead children in the afterlife, essentially, and she's weeping and crying because she can't find them. I'll get into all that, like why she's crying, in a second, but so the main thing you always hear is that she's crying and weeping, and if you see a sighting or an encounter online or something like that, that's always the main thing they say that they hear. So the story goes, her original name like varies from story to story, so I don't remember what her actual like name is, but so this woman in Mexico marries a guy and they have kids, and the guy disappears, leaves one day, and just doesn't come back for a long time. He eventually does come back, and turns out he cheated on her and now wants possession of the kids. So she begs and cries like, don't take my kids and don't do this, and he's just not having it. So then she asks him, can I just have one last picnic with the kids before you take them? And he agrees to that. He says, yeah, sure. And she goes down to a river and drowns both the kids. And so the story goes, at least. And she comes back to the guy feeling guilty and starts crying and just saying like to the guy, I'm so sorry, but this is what I did, and so on. And he goes like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, I'm leaving. And he leaves, and she then goes to the same river and drowns herself as well. And so the legend goes, she couldn't go to the afterlife with her children because they were in
purgatory.
Since they died in water or something like that, they couldn't go to the afterlife because they weren't buried. Which we'll get in if that makes any sense in a second, but yeah, so she's denied access to the afterlife, and she's back in our world, dead, and looking for their bodies so that she can bury them and then go to the afterlife with them. So that's basically where the story originally like comes from.
Yeah, from what I understand, what's crazy about the myth, or is that it's throughout Mexico, and each village has like a different take on it. But yeah, it's like it's throughout Mexico. Like, it's not just one little village has this myth. It's like a bunch of them, like, collectively have it. So I don't know how that spread, honestly, but I think it's kind of crazy that it spread and became widespread and well known throughout all of Mexico, pretty much.
Yeah, the story varies a lot, and pretty much when a story has spread far when the story varies a lot, because I feel like when a story hasn't gone very far, it basically more or less stays the same. But if a story spreads a lot, it'll you get all these different variations of a story. So have you seen or heard about any of the like supposed encounters for La Llorona? Like, have you heard about any of those? Or
I've heard so many different stories, but I'm having a hard time recalling any of them. I just remember she cries, and I feel like she lures people and then drowns them, right?
Yeah. See, apparently she drowns them, and apparently she also takes children. Like, and some parents have used the story to keep the children in check, like, and make them behave, like, don't run off on your own, don't do this or that, or La Llorona will get you and drown you. I think that's kind of like, I think that's a little fucked up, personally.
Well,
but it'll work, I imagine.
We're going to, I guess we can preface this by saying most of these urban legends you could take as cautionary tales, because I'm sure we'll even do like some European ones where there's a lot of European legends along with Native American and legends about in like South and Central America and Mexico about staying away from waterways, pretty much, like things that are going, like things that lure you to water and drown you.
There is a lot of that, actually.
And I wonder if it's just because water is really dangerous, because you have like animals that can take you in and lure you in and grab you, or why? My bad. Why do all these different places have like that specifically? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is strange because like there's the I forget what it's called, the horse that drowns people in a lake. Yeah, the Kelpie. There's that thing. There's a kappa from Japan, which I think comes from the water.
It's like a frog monster.
Yeah, something like that.
Which I'm sure we'll talk about both of these.
We probably will, yeah. But yeah, it's something about the water. I don't know, but there's one thing for sure. It'll probably work to keep your kids away, because that is some scary shit for a kid to hear. But like,
well, I think we can all agree water is terrifying. Honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Because we're not in our element in it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in our element. We can't move well in it, and we're at a distinct disadvantage. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been the sightings and encounters I've seen and read about. There was one that was really popular online of a security guard that he was outside of, I don't remember what he was like guarding, but he was outside of some building at night, and he hears this lady like screaming and wailing, and like, you know, he could have just attached the audio or something, because, you know, you couldn't tell where it was coming from. Like, it seemed like it was coming from just everywhere, like somehow, if you know what I mean. So it could have been fake, but it was pretty scary. I'll attach the video if I can find it again, but that video got pretty popular and pretty big at the time. I remember this was a few years ago, and people were like, oh shit, this is like the most genuine footage we've seen so far, because there's really not a lot of footage of encounters like that, of supposed Liorona encounters, so that was one of the only like really compelling ones. And they say like if you hear her far away, then she's closer, way closer than it seems, than it sounds. And if you hear her close to you, she's further, apparently.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it doesn't. It kind of doesn't. But that's what I read. But, you know,
that makes no sense.
As many variations of this story that there is, that could just be one random one, you know? Like, anyone could have added that onto the story. So I'm not really putting that much credence into that one, but
I think it's kind of crazy. Like, there are videos that do pop up of like wailing people, kind of like it's always women crying, and there's a lot of like skinwalker lore and like changeling lore and like shit like that. Like, supposedly those things try to. It seems like anything that tries to lure people in, we either use voices that sound familiar, just like sound familiar but they're kind of off, or make themselves sound like a woman or child. Which like you get that with Black Eyed Kids too. Like, it's kind of
right.
There's a lot of similarities between a lot of these different things, and it's kind of like.
So if you heard a woman wailing and crying and begging for help and saying, I can't find my kids, whatever, do you think you would go the opposite direction, or do you think you would go toward it and actually attempt to help?
I think there's a lot of variables there. I mean, it would depend. What time of day is it?
That's true. If it's like in the middle of the night, probably not, I guess, but
if it's 1 or 2 in the morning and I'm outside, if I'm in the woods, if I'm walking around, if I hear someone screaming, Unfortunately, if it's 2 in the morning or even like 11:30, 12, if it's dark, the chances of me going or like
Yeah.
walking towards that are very slim.
No, I agree with that.
Unless I have something on me to protect myself. And even then, I wouldn't be that confident.
Right. Yeah. Even then. I mean, cause like, yeah, someone could be genuinely actually in danger, but at the same time, like, you know, what are you? Who knows what the situation could be? It could be. I mean, you could get yourself in danger instead of saving someone. Like, who knows? I mean, or it could be Liorona and you get drowned. Who knows? I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, I guess it'd be safe to say if I'm near water and I hear someone crying towards water, then no, I wouldn't go near it. I wouldn't go towards that way.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't, honestly. Probably be one of the
Especially just
last
knowing
ones I
different
would.
urban legends and just kind of
Yeah.
water is kind of taboo. And you stay the fuck away from it, like as a rule of thumb.
So what do you think those those encounter videos that are supposedly from Mexico? I don't know how to like verify that they're actually in Mexico, but what do you think like all those videos of women like crying and wailing? What do you think they are? Like, do you think there's any credence to them, or do you think like they're actually just women like for some reason or another screaming? Or it could
I
be
think
fake. That's an
I
option too.
think I think some of them are fake. Some of them are just women. Like I think a lot of them are probably hoax and it's people just kind of playing it
Yeah,
up
for
to the
sure.
shit. And it is people yelling and screaming, but it's people doing it for the
Like
point of,
purposely.
oh, yeah, La Llorona. Like,
Yeah. Then again, like if someone's out at night screaming just to like, I mean, it's different if
well, look at the killer clown situation. Like,
yeah,
that started spreading, and
that is
then
kind of
you just
similar
have
to that, I guess.
random people going outside dressed in clown costumes. So,
That
like,
is true. I thought that
if
was deranged, but that's just as deranged as someone screaming at night pretending to be La Llorona. So, in
and
fact,
like,
that's more deranged than being a clown.
yeah, because there's like death is involved in that. Like,
Right.
legitimate death is involved in that urban legend. You know, like,
Yeah. And that's
so you're
fucked.
kind of there's kind of high stakes. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd say like there's a fair amount to that. I think.
Yeah. I just wish there was a way to. Maybe there is, but I just wish there was a better way to verify if these videos and these people were actually in Mexico. Because I don't know what the hell Mexico really looks like, so you can't tell just from like a grainy video if it's in Mexico or not, you know?
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, it is a terrifying tale, but it's also a cautionary tale, and it's kind of like you know, here's the thing: is we do see parents in custody battles and shit like that doing stuff like that. Like that type of thing genuinely happens, and that's a very old tale, but like that still happens today. So it really like, as far as how the story is set up, it could be something that happened. Like,
Yeah.
It's
that's
really
true.
not out of the realm of possibility
Yeah,
that something like that happened.
it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I'm sure you could find many stories online. Like, in fact, a lot of stories online of just this exact thing happening. Obviously, not the part where she goes to the afterlife and gets denied. I mean, just like someone losing custody of their kids and then.
Can you
No.
can you speak on why she supposedly, like, why not being buried? You
I
can't go to
don't.
the afterlife if you're buried. Did you find anything on that?
I don't know. I didn't like get a solid concrete answer on that. Like why they had to be buried, because that's kind of a I don't know, a hole in the story. Because like, why would you have to be buried to go to get access into the afterlife? Kind of doesn't like make any sense. I
I
can't.
mean, I
Uh,
have heard things like that, like in a bunch of different legends and kind of ghost lore, like people that didn't get proper burials sometimes don't go to the afterlife and become ghosts. And then part of the reason they're ghosts is because they didn't get a burial and like they were murdered and just left somewhere and like they don't.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean
know.
I've heard that.
I can't say it doesn't make any sense because obviously I don't have the answers to the fucking afterlife, but I thought that was weird for sure because I had never heard that before. But I mean, maybe I'm sure if you really looked into it, you'd find some sort of answer to that, but obviously nothing concrete.
I do think it's pretty interesting, and it's it's something as we go along with this series. I think we'll probably delve more into that, and we might end up answering that when we're researching for things like the Kappa, the Kelpie, sirens,
Yeah,
different
maybe.
things that have to do with water. And I mean, here's the thing is spirits like that and different entities like that pop up in pretty much every culture's folklore.
Yeah, it does. It's a pretty common thing, I'd say.
So, I mean, either I don't know. I mean, usually when there's a lot of similarities in something, and I feel like there's more to it. Like there has to be something. I'm not saying that.
I kind of agree with that. I've always been like of that belief that if something, there's so many similarities to different cultures that there's something to it. That's kind of what I think.
I mean, we're obviously if you've listened to this podcast before, you kind of know that we err on the side of skepticism somewhat, but we also do like keep our minds open to things and don't discount that something could be supernatural. So it's kind of like one of those things. I feel like there has to be something to that, because if all of that is just tales to stay away from the water, I mean, you could think of easier ways to get somebody staying away from the water.
Yeah.
Like,
instead of a whole in-depth, like detailed tale, like.
And just the amount of different stories, which we'll probably touch on a lot of them, and some of them might be similar, but they all have their own twist and different characteristics, so they're all worth covering.
Yeah, for sure. And we probably will get to those in the future. So, well, guys, this is Lucid Rain. Hope you guys enjoyed this new series, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.